Do not adjust your podcast dials, ladies and gentlemen. You are indeed listening to a very special crossover edition of Keep PounDENN. When the Panthers send almost 40 players out to the waiver wire, well, we need to talk about it immediately. And who better to join me than the hosts of your favorite podcasts all across the Riot Network, which is, of course, powered by our friends at Ortho Carolina. We've got Keith Hall from the Roaring Riot podcast, Josh Klein from It Is What It Is and One Day Contract. So if you like what you hear today, be sure to subscribe, rate, review all the podcasts over on the Riot Network. My name's Den, and if you're listening on a different podcast feed and you like the fiery takes you're probably about to hear, well, you should subscribe to our show as well. We're joined by my co-host, Chris, who just 3 days ago put up 67 points in NFL Blitz, by the way. The Panthers now have a 53-man roster, and just 7 days from today, the train tracks will be filled with Roaring Riot members ready to watch this team play a real-life game. So let's get right into it. Josh Klein, first of all, man, thanks for putting this all together. Yesterday was a pretty busy day for you, my friend, as I could imagine.
No, well, you're the one that's actually hosting. This is giving me a great chance to already start drinking beer. Is that cool at 10 a.m., right? No,
that's totally fine. It's Labor Day weekend.
It's technically Saturday.
It's Labor Day weekend. So, yeah, nothing better than grilling up some hot dogs and some hamburgers and yelling about how Deshaun Hall is or is not a bust.
Yeah, we'll get into that one. That's one of the bigger news of the day. But Keith, hey man, I want to say hi to you. What's going on over there in the capital Riot land?
Well, we're in the Twin City right now. So I'm currently in the Twin City, which is Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We are the Camel City Riot, and just trying to get through the cuts from this past weekend and come to grips with this 53-man roster. And it's not so bad. That probably sounds a little worse than what I actually feel, but it's interesting to see where we are, and we'll get right into it.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I probably should have put that in the notes, the Riot switch there. But hey, we're still happy to have you on today. And Chris, again, from here at Keep PounDENN, coming off that big 67 win off your 3-year-old son.
For the record, I put up 77 on him this morning.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Was that with Kerry Collins and
Cocaine Carey?
Batuka?
Big time. Mark Carrier had 5 touchdowns. It was a glorious affair.
Yeah.
Well,
Reminds me of real life.
Let's get right into this, guys. Saturday or yesterday, always one of the tough days for some guys making the team or trying to make a team. 37 or 38, I believe, technically, players told there was just not enough room for them yesterday. Let's just hop into some of kind of the bigger news of the day. Of course, Panthers trading that 2020 7th-round pick to the Lions for Corey Robinson. Was a former 7th-round pick, played 8 games in Detroit last season. Josh, how do you feel about that? That surprised you at all? That obviously looking for tackle depth, but as far as who they went
fine. I think a lot of people, when they saw that the Panthers had traded for a tackle, expected that they had just traded for Joe Thomas or Jordan Gross, but the reality is they traded a conditional 7th-round pick, which usually means that if a guy doesn't spend, I think it's 4 games on the roster, then that 7th-round pick just doesn't even exist. That's actually the same trade, kind of, that they traded last year for Kevon Seymour. They sent a conditional 7th-rounder to Buffalo, and then because Kalen Clay wasn't on their roster for 4 games, they didn't actually send them that pick. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now, and I think that Corey Robinson is going to come in and provide depth. If you are excited about Jeremiah Searles, I think you should be the same level of excitement about Corey Robinson. He is a very serviceable tackle. He is an NFL player. He's going to come in and put a body in front of some defensive ends, which is something that the Panthers are sorely lacking right now with 4 offensive linemen injured, including 1 onto injured reserve for the season. So I think he's going to be fine. I am not sure that he is not going to start week 1, which is exciting, I guess. I don't know. Is it cool to trade for someone for a right tackle that might be starting week 1?
Yeah, the basically the week of week 1. Yeah, I think that's safe, right?
I mean, to be fair, the Bears traded for a linebacker yesterday. I don't know if you heard about that. He's probably going to start week 1.
Yeah.
It's a really good point.
He's definitely got some potential.
This is pretty much the same situation.
Ross is a local guy, too. Well, local North Carolina guy.
Yeah.
Greenville?
Havelock.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And according to the comments here, he's a former Gamecock as well. So
That's disappointing.
What's up?
Captain Munnerlin is so excited.
Some other kind of, I thought was kind of surprising news. FAO Bottom making the Panthers for now at least, and them parting ways with Deshaun Hall, 3rd round pick 2017. Besides Hall, it's kind of cool to see that 2017 draft class and how much of a splash they could make this year. Of course, McCaffrey, Samuel, Moton, Hall now cut, but Corn Elder, my boy, my breakout star of this year, and Alex Arma, and we won't talk about that kicker that they drafted, but
he was pretty good.
He's really, really good.
That was a great pick.
I mean,
exactly.
as far as making a splash for us, I mean, but
well, he made a big splash last year when they kept 2 kickers. That was
there you go. He actually gave
like an
us
exciting time to get
something to talk about. Yeah, I like that. But hey, let's go down some of these positions. Josh, I'll let you kind of captain as far as which positions to talk about. Let's where do you want to start?
I think we should start at quarterback, right? I think that was there was a semi-quarterback controversy. Obviously, not for starter, but for the first time in Cam Newton's career, there was a competition for his backup. And I think ultimately they made the right choice. But for me, when you see somebody like Landry Jones get cut from the Steelers, would Landry Jones be a better option as a backup quarterback than Taylor Heineke? I don't know specifically whether he would fit into the system, whether how he's even looked for the past 3 years. But I just remember when Roethlisberger was hurt 2 or 3 years ago, Landry Jones stepped in and did an acceptable job. And would he be better than Taylor Heineke? I think Taylor Heineke played better than Garrett Gilbert, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's ready to be an NFL backup.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about a lot kind of this offseason and actually most seasons is, let's be real, the Carolina Panthers aren't the Philadelphia Eagles. QB1 goes down, we're not going to the Super Bowl. And that's fine. There's a lot of other depth to fill on that team. But, Heineke, he started off the preseason, I thought, pretty good as far as his first few games. And it felt like his kind of passing declined. But we talked about it this week, Chris. I think he at least fits the Panthers' offense more than any backup quarterback that we've kind of seen behind Cam. I think, has it only been Derek Anderson?
Yeah. Well, and they carried Kaya for a little bit last season as well, and I think there was some hope there that he could run that type of offense. But yeah, you're right. Heineke's the first guy that we've had here that could possibly run a very similar offense. Not to throw shade or dirt on a dead body, but Derek Anderson just wasn't that good the last few years when he got in. I feel like they had to change the game plan way too much for him. But with Heineke, he does some of the same things, and he's got some speed, as we saw on that rushing touchdown he had against was that New England 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So, I mean, with what we had to work with, he was the best choice. And I think Josh is right. It could be a Landry Jones. It could be somebody else who got cut. I think this is one of those situations where just because the 53 was set yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be the same 53 tomorrow. We see that every year. So who knows?
We also, people kind of chalked it up to it being our fourth preseason game secondary. But what about Josh Dobbs? I thought he looked really good. I mean, you can call it what you want.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh kept him.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, as far as people that are out there, is Heineke he's not out there, but there were people in the preseason that might have looked better than Heineke as far as what Josh was saying. So, Pro Football Talk wasn't shy to throw out the Kaepernick name out there, taking a shot at the Panthers, saying they'll sign Taylor Heineke. Who the hell is he? And people won't sign Kaepernick. But hey, if Kaepernick wants to play for,
hilarious shot to take, because it's like, how many backup quarterbacks in the league are not as good as Colin Kaepernick? And I don't think that it's fair to just throw shade at Taylor Heineke just because he has a name with K's in it that sounds similar to Kaepernick.
Once again, it's just Darren Gant strikes again.
Well, they're throwing shade at it, something that actually kind of made sense. I felt like if you're going to throw shade at a quarterback that doesn't fit a team. I think that Heineke at least can fit the offense and make it work versus kind of having to throw the plan out the window. But, hey, and if Kaepernick wants to come play here for $750K, I don't think anyone here is going to say no for that either, you know?
Hey, Dan, you make a good point about Heineke, though, because he did really seem to be very well managing the games. He does seem to fit into what the Panthers offer. So, yeah, Kaepernick would make a big name, a big splash. There'd be a lot of people talking about that, both pro and con. But I think that the Panthers made the decision that needed to be made here, and it was the right one for the time. So I'm comfortable with Heineke, and I think that he simply did outplay Gilbert for the position.
I agree. I think he definitely outplayed Gilbert. But my issue with Heineke that we saw in this small stretch of the preseason is that he starts slow. Every game that he's come in, he has been one for his first 5, and then he heats up a little bit. And that's not what you need from your backup quarterback. You need somebody that's going to be like a microwave, like a Vinny Johnson that's going to come in.
Nice.
That's a cross-sport reference.
Nice reference.
You need somebody that's going to come in and be able to make that sudden change, to come off the bench cold and make plays and perhaps keep your team in a game. You know, if Cam Newton gets hurt, it doesn't matter if there's a minute and a half left in the game and they're down by 5. Heineke has to come in, and he's not going to have that adjustment period to kind of heat up like he has been doing over the preseason. So that's something I think he's going to have to work on as if he's going to be a competent backup in this league. And there's nothing that says that he can't. You know, he could certainly be a guy that is the backup quarterback for the next 6 years of Cam Newton's career.
Did you say like a microwave?
Yeah.
Come on, you know that reference, right?
Analogy.
That's a really
maybe I don't.
Solid ref.
I don't know, but
don't forget that when your starting quarterback starts to not produce so well, the secondary quarterback, the backup quarterback, becomes the most popular player on the team.
Yeah.
Let's not forget when Jake Delhomme was throwing ducks out there that everyone was clamoring for Chris Winkie, and we knew what we had there.
I sat through the Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady talk for a while, so we'll let that go for another day though. All right, we don't need to spend too much more time on the quarterbacks. Josh, what do you want to go to next?
I mean, let's go right down to running backs, right? Because I think a lot of people thought that there was a chance that Kenyon Barner was going to make this roster, and I saw a lot of I think like vitriol is the right word for it on Twitter for Cameron Artis-Payne, because you know a lot of people are expecting him. He's in the final year of his rookie contract. So it's one way or the other with Cap. People either want him to get all the carries and they're mad that he's not getting the usage that they think he should, or they think he should just be a better player, even though he's not getting the carries. So it's like in between, have those thoughts. I wasn't surprised that Cap made the roster. I think that to me is the most Ron Rivera move of all time, is to have 2 guys that are fairly similar. So I'm just going to keep the guy that I'm already familiar with. And that is that doesn't surprise me. And then once Kenyon Barner didn't make the roster, it seemed pretty clear that Damiere Byrd was going to. There was a lot of talk. I personally didn't think that Damiere was going to make the roster. I thought that they would keep 5 instead of 6. And I'm not. I mean, sometimes I'm wrong, and I'm willing to eat crow on that, because I've been saying for the past week that I didn't think Damiere was going to make it. So I'm glad that he is. I'm glad that he's back. I think he's has the ability to change the game on special teams, which is his best value. But I think that is pretty exciting. But at the same time, who knows what's going to happen between today and week 1 at Dallas? Last year at this time, we were all celebrating how Alex Arma had made the team and he was going to have a huge impact, and then he waived at about noon today. So no, wait, that sounds bad. He was not waived this year. Today, last year was. I feel like I'm not.
You're in the future,
sorry,
man.
It's early. It's early in the morning.
Sorry, Facebook Live.
You know, Josh, you know, obviously tough to see what happened to Elijah Hood on Friday. Do you think a healthy Elijah Hood would have made things a little more difficult in the running back room this year, or do you think he was still kind of had some ways to go?
I think he was more destined for the practice squad. I love Elijah Hood, Target legend. But I think that he was going to make I think he was going to be a practice squad guy regardless. So now it's almost a little bit easier because now he can just sit on injured reserve for his favorite team and, his childhood team and get better and get the coaching staff familiar with him. And he'll be in the film room, in the weight room, learning and growing this whole season. So it's almost like an extra season of learning, albeit, on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm. I'm of course excited for C.J. Anderson. I still think, with the workload McCaffrey's getting, I do think he is kind of an under the radar guy, even in the receiving game for Cam. So I did like what Elijah brought as far as the power. I still wonder if we do have that true power back. Maybe we'll see Alex Armour get some carries down by the goal line. Who knows? Missed that kind of football.
I'm most excited about Armour.
Cool. And I guess we'll add him into there. I mean, if you want to talk about Arma too, being in the running back group. So
I think they're going to run a little bit more I formation than they did last year, and I think he is going to have a role in this offense. But I don't think it's going to be, he got 3 carries in the preseason. Last year he got 2. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's getting a ton of carries, but I do think he's going to get more snaps than he did last year, which is a step up, especially for a 6th-round fullback. It's one of the there's nothing more, like diehard fan than getting excited about a sixth round fullback and begging for him to get more carries, which I get it. I mean, I'm right there with everybody, but it's very funny that everybody is like, I want to see more Arma. I can't believe they don't use this guy that used to be a defensive end 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say. I want to see him take some snaps on the other side of the ball.
There you go. See, that's fun.
And did he ever play tight end? Or I know he's
he was tight end and defensive end. Yeah.
He's like a jack of all trades. He plays every position there.
So, all right.
Is he also a third string quarterback?
Who's the quarterback? Is it Poe who took a snap back there?
Yep, he's got touchdown passes.
There you go. Josh.
Oh yeah, he's got more touchdown passes than Taylor Heineke.
There you go.
He's got more pass attempts than Taylor Heineke.
Josh, I'm assuming you might want to go receiver.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're going in order, right? That seems like the thing that makes the most sense.
Well,
I think it was.
If we're going in order by the RiotReport.com, by the way, that is not alphabetically order. So yeah, I'm all off here. But let's go down the offense. You're right. Wide receiver. What do you got, Josh?
I just thought I think Damiere Byrd is really. I'd be curious to get you guys' take. Chris, Keith, did you guys think that Damiere was going to make the roster?
I thought he was bubble.
I thought it was going to come down to that extra running back or Damiere Byrd, and that was Kenjon Barner, obviously, with the injury. And I had no problem with it either way. A good player wasn't going to make the team in one of those two positions. But one thing that I thought that kind of made going with 3 running backs easier, I think that Curtis Samuel might get some time back there. We saw him do that in college, and I wouldn't be surprised if we used him in that role just to get him on the field somehow, lining him up in the backfield. I know that's not necessarily Damiere Byrd, but that's why Damiere Byrd's on the rosters, because they cut Kenjon Barner, because I think they know they can run Curtis Samuel back there a little bit.
So I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I never thought there was a chance that Byrd wouldn't make the roster. But based on what he did late season last year, and then we threw out the question last week and said, who wins the punt returner job? We had Barner, DJ Moore back there a bunch, Byrd, of course, and they did throw some Austin Duke. Staying on Damiere Byrd, do you think that punt return job is his, Josh, or do you think that that's still pretty something they're going to experiment through the season with?
I think they might experiment. I think you might see more of DJ Moore back there than we expect to for a rookie wide receiver. I think he's a guy that's, a running back when he gets the ball in his hands in space, and that's the most space you can get is on a punt return. And I get it that everybody says that, you don't want these guys on special teams because they might get hurt. But I mean, come on. Like, we saw one of the Steelers wide receivers broke their leg on a very routine play. Ross Cockrell broke his leg on a very routine end zone play. Like, these guys get hurt. Football, the injury percentage in football is 100%. So if somebody's going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt on offense, on defense, on special teams. So it doesn't really matter. To me, I think you drafted DJ Moore to put the ball in his hands. So let's put him out there on punt returns and let him go.
Yeah.
Like the host Ashland says that Byrd is our return guy. So she's firmly in the Bird camp, and I have to agree. He looked really good on the punt return and the kick returns.
He hits the hole more of. We saw DJ Moore kind of dancing around. He actually went backwards, I feel, a few times last game, which is cool when it works. Barry Sanders will attest to that, but it's definitely not something you want to see become a habit. So I still think he has a little ways to go to be an NFL punt returner. I mean, hey, we saw what Christian McCaffrey did in college. And not sure if that's really his fault or more of the unit, but not really too much to shake a stick at as far as him returning last year. So just because you can do it in college doesn't mean you're plug and play to the NFL. But yeah, as far as some more on the wide receivers, too bad we
no real surprises though. I don't think the receivers as a whole.
They had five guys that they wanted, and it was really just a question of whether Bird was gonna stick, and he did. And I think that the fact that he's out there, you're going to see him obviously on special teams, but I don't think you're going to see a whole lot from him on actual offense, which is a shame. But it's always nice to have depth, so you're not running, our favorite long-haired blonde number 11 out there in a playoff game against the Saints.
Thoughts and prayers.
Can we just speak for a minute about Curtis Samuel and just how he has progressed and evolved over the last few seasons? Because he looked like an absolute beast on a few of those plays against the Patriots.
Yeah.
He looked good the whole preseason, I thought.
Great feet, great hands, and great presence of mind on the field. I'm very impressed by Curtis Samuel, and I'm looking forward to some highlights this season.
I've said it a few times now. Samuel is playing bigger than his body is. Like, he's the opposite of Kelvin Benjamin.
Yes. Great point.
I didn't expect him to be making these catches, down the sidelines, kind of jump balls in traffic, getting hit right after it. He's not his build isn't someone that you'd expect that, but he's done the job pretty well. Jarius
he
Wright
mossed a guy.
What'd you say?
He mossed a guy
he
in,
did.
I think it was week 1. Like, I did not expect that from Curtis Samuel to moss somebody, which I just really like using that as a verb, so I'm going to use it as much as I possibly can.
Kind of one of the elephants in the room, especially if you go on Panthers Twitter, is, you look at the salary of some of these guys, and there's a big difference between some of the guys that have been performing in preseason and Torrey Smith, who's sitting there with a $5 million hit. I'm not going to jump on Torrey Smith.
Come on, man. To the
I have to address it.
Stats matter in the preseason?
Exactly. So people are all over Torrey Smith, basically saying that he's taking snaps away from people like Samuel, people like Bird. I'm not going to freak out about it. I think you know what you get with Torrey Smith. Josh, anything that you can say that as far as
man.
like or not like, though?
No, I think that Torrey Smith is a guy that doesn't need to expend himself in the preseason.
Neither does Julius Peppers. Neither is Luke
Kuechly. A whole lot from Greg
Yeah.
Olsen. Is Greg Olsen taking snaps away from Ian Thomas? Is Julius Peppers taking snaps away from Marquise Haynes? Is Luke Kuechly taking snaps away from Jermaine Carter? It's freaking ridiculous. The guy's a veteran wide receiver. They need a presence like that, and they need somebody that can go out there and make plays in big situations. I'm sorry, I love Devin Funchess, but he is not the leader of that wide receiver room. He has played in 2 playoff games. He has never been a guy that hit. That's not true. More playoff games than that.
Yeah, it's
4.
He is a guy. See, there you go. 4. Played in 4 playoff games. Torrey Smith has more than 1 Super Bowl ring. Like, he is a guy that knows how to win, and he knows what it takes to win in December and in January. It's very easy to be a leader in September. It's not easy to be a leader in December. So that is what Torrey Smith is going to bring to this team. And when you say, they should just cut Torrey Smith and keep somebody like Deshaun Hall or Bug Howard or somebody younger because he's taking snaps away from Damiere Byrd and Curtis Samuel, it's not a good take. It's the opposite. Yep. Torrey Smith is going to have a role in this offense.
And that's our new segment called Putting It to Bed.
Ooh, I like that, Chris. I like that. Yeah, and we haven't even talked much about Jarius Wright. I think that Jarius Wright's going to provide that. Like I said, we haven't really had a quick out receiver. Third downs has always been a tough thing for this team. I guess it's tough for every team. But I liked what I saw with Wright there. And, yeah, bringing in some veteran. It's nice when you can bring in a Super Bowl veteran receiver to kind of lead your locker room, huh, Chris? Probably should have done that a few years ago. But
Yeah,
I think we're done with the
but
receiver room here.
The one specifically you're talking about didn't win a Super Bowl, I don't think.
Yeah, he did. Come on, dude. We'll just move on. Josh, where do you want to go?
Did he win one?
Of course he did.
Oh, I forgot. He won the Ravens one. I was thinking the Niners one.
Dude, the lights went out and everything. It was like Undertaker when he's in the building. Let's hop over to the tight ends.
Rang?
Yeah.
No, wait, hang on. I have one more thing. So
go ahead.
One of the podcasts that I'm the host of, One Day Contract, we have a game segment that we play games at the end of every episode, and the game that's coming up this week is going to be a game called Shoot Your Shot, and it is going to be, we talk about, we kind of have a take and then we support it, where it probably isn't going to come true, but it's one of those things where there's a path to it coming true. And my shot is going to be that Jarius Wright is going to have the second most receptions on this Panthers team at the end of the season. Now, that's probably not going to be true, but at the same time, he is a guy that Cam Newton has been looking to every single third down. He is always the guy that runs those Madden-style smart routes that are right at the sticks. And I think that he is going to be a monster this year. Not from a fantasy perspective, because he's going to end up with like 500 yards, 600 yards receiving. But I think all of those catches are going to come on third down, and they're going to be for 6 or 7 yards and big yardage too. So I was really impressed with what I saw from Jarius Wright through training camp, the preseason. Norv Turner loves him. Cam Newton loves him. I think he's going to have a bigger role than everybody thinks he is.
Yeah, me too. I was wrong. I was wrong about him. Being wrong never felt so right. We called it last week. So.
And can I segue into that, Josh? Because this is the first time in a very, very long time that I felt this excited about our offense. Since having Norv Turner come on board, seeing all the weapons that Cam Newton has, I've not really had the opportunity to think that, wow, we're going to be a powerhouse. We have the potential to be a powerhouse offense here, because I've never really felt that in the last few years.
You mean Ted Ginn and Devin Funchess and Jericho Cotchery didn't get you hot?
Well, no, and really,
it was like week 9 before it got me hot.
Yeah, no. Just having Shula there calling the plays either. Just I didn't feel it, but now this season, there's so much potential there.
Yeah, and
yeah,
Josh,
you hear a lot of the word genius thrown around about Norv Turner. You did not hear that about Mike Shula.
No.
So yeah, wide receiver, obviously a hot topic. We stayed on that one a bit. It's funny actually, around the league, real quick, people are saying that the Panthers, have no receivers. And I say, what are you talking about? Panthers fans are talking about this is the deepest room Cam's maybe almost ever had. So it's kind of funny.
I think it is the deepest room he's ever had.
Yeah. Tight end, we probably don't need to spend a ton of time on. Let's talk about, I guess, Manhurts securing that third spot. Anything to add on the tight ends, Josh? It's pretty clear cut, right?
I think it's pretty much. This was the group. From if you did a roster projection in like June, this was what the tight end group looked like. So I think it's fine. I think we thought Ian Thomas was going to be the third tight end, but it turns out he's the second tight end, and good for him. I'm excited to see what he.
I know a lot of people did like Jason Vanderland, but maybe next year we'll see.
I like Scott Simonson
for the practice squad.
Yeah,
sure, Scotty S.
Josh, where do you want to go next?
I guess, should we go just like offensive line and just kind of talk about it in general? I mean, they're just so ravaged on the offensive line from an injury perspective.
Yeah, I still wouldn't be shocked if we've got maybe even 2 more offensive linemen on this roster come Sunday that aren't here now. I just think there's so many moving pieces and so many holes still. I'm not going to be surprised if there's more moves made this week. We know who's starting at center. And I think that's about the only one that we know
who's finishing at center.
No, I said start. I think all the other positions are pretty much still. Maybe Moten you can lock in at left tackle, which I'm totally fine with, and Trey Turner at right guard. But for the most part, I still no telling if you ask me.
This is the chance, right? Is Moten is going to start at left tackle, and they're probably going to hold out Khalil until the bye. So that's 3 weeks of Moten at left tackle, and how well does he need to perform for that to be his job for the rest of the year?
If he can play average tackle for the next 4 weeks, it's his job.
Yeah.
Does he play it, but doesn't he have to play excellent like he has to show that he's so bad that that's how he gets the job. I think if he plays average tackle, I think Khalil gets his job back. I think if he is like one of those PFF no hurries, no hits guys, then maybe Rivera can't. The voices are too loud or the performance is too good for him to go back to Khalil.
But that's what I'm saying. An average performance is better than what you're going to get from Matt Khalil.
Yeah, it's the Frankenstein offensive line has really not had much negative to say about it from my end. I mean, it's almost like we had more issues when the actual starting lineup was up there. So it's pretty clear cut with the offensive line as far as where we're at. Hopefully they can add some more bodies. Greg Van Roten I thought did a pretty good job in preseason as well. So not much more to say about the line. I mean, we don't have to. It's probably
I think there's somebody coming off waivers for the offensive line. So probably before this goes out on the audio feed for people, there will be a new offensive line that we are not talking about right now. So get excited for that.
The ever-changing NFL.
Josh, I do have one question, and maybe you've heard something, but is Tyler Larson back healthy, or what's his deal?
Yeah. I think the thing for Larson is they want him to be the backup center, or they want him to be kind of that swing interior lineman, so he can be the backup for Trey, for Ryan Khalil, and for Greg Van Roten. I think at this point.
So do they basically just bubble wrap him for the
pretty much? I mean,
okay.
They know what he's going to do, and I think. It's really interesting to me that they are basically they didn't even put him into the left guard competition, and I think that's because they know expect Ryan Khalil to miss time. So, I think he's the backup center. I think that's why they signed him. I think he's also the center for the future for this team, which I think is good. He earned that spot, so good for him.
Yep.
And shout out to. I don't even know how to properly say this. Is it Brendan Mahan? Man? We all pronounce it differently.
Yeah, Brendan Mann.
All right, there we go.
The man.
Now I have the pronunciation down. Shout out
I knew a guy from West Virginia. He was probably a meth neck, but he just called himself Brandon Man because he finished every sentence in man, so we just called him Brandon Man. So it constantly reminds me of Brandon Mann. There you go. Really takes me back, man. It's really summer of 2004.
Josh, where are we taking this
defense,
shit next?
Baby.
Let's go. You give me a position.
Are we excited that number 90 made the team? I think I was.
I was surprised, to be honest. I didn't see him flash in preseason, and as we know, Den's got to see a guy flash in the preseason. Wait, he didn't even put shoulder pads on.
I said they don't, Chris. That's not what I said.
That's not what you said about Torrey Smith.
No, that is what I said about Torrey Smith.
Listen, you can
tell everyone to relax. Yeah, of course. I guess we'll shoot over the defensive ends. I guess we'll start there, Chris.
I think that. Yeah, the question is really, do you guys think that Brian Cox and F.A. Abada are still on this roster in 3 days?
Bet one of them are.
I bet one of them is too.
I just the Panthers have been kind of pumping Obata on social media. I feel like that would be such a cruel thing to do if he gets cut 2 days later. But
dude, the Sixers drafted a guy who went to Nova from Philly. His mom worked for the Sixers.
Yep.
They did all the interviews. He cried. Then 20 minutes later, they traded him to Phoenix. It's a business, man. Doesn't matter.
It's a business, man. I'm a businessman. It's a businessman.
It was all about clicks yesterday. It's not about clicks on Tuesday.
Sure.
Josh, any surprise in Haynes making the team? I know he didn't really have a stellar preseason. I mean,
no. I thought that I think that a lot of people were surprised that Deshaun Hall got cut, but for me that was not a surprise. I thought that Hall. Obviously he missed all of last season. You can't really help an injury, but I never really was impressed with what I saw from him in training camp or preseason or any of that stuff. And it was a new regime. Marty Hurney really doesn't have any attachment to Deshaun Hall. I know Gettleman traded up for him, but they liked Haynes better, and I thought Cox outplayed him, and obviously Abada did as well. And I think that he just, it sometimes just doesn't happen. And the success rate for these guys is, 50%, even in the first round. So for a third round pick to be cut a year later, everybody's like, oh, they wasted that pick. I just don't think so. They gave it a shot, and it's just not a great fit. He'll get a chance to go somewhere else and be successful. But
who knows? He could be the next Coney Ely.
Yeah.
Hey,
Ely's got a lot of jerseys in his locker.
Yeah, getting another one today, I'm sure.
Speaking of that, real quick, how awesome is it that kind of one of the guys that we're relying on and very excited about is someone that we fleeced Bill Belichick over, and that being Taylor Moton on that 64th pick.
Boy, I bet Bill Belichick would kill for a tackle right now.
Hey, let's hop into the defensive tackles. On our show on Thursday, Josh, Bobby was kind of down on Vernon Butler. Doesn't really see a spot on him on the team for him. But, when you start looking at the depth, I mean, you're not going to take people like Kendrick Norton and Tracy Sprinkle over Vernon Butler, right? But what are your thoughts on Vernon Butler there? Kind of the odd one out there when you look at the full group of Short, Poe, and even Kyle Love, who's been playing pretty well.
Yeah.
There he is. You over there, Josh?
Defensive line is so difficult to. I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive line is so difficult to evaluate, especially defensive tackle. So much of Vernon Butler's job is to take up blocking, which seems crazy, but that's exactly what he does. The fact that he can take up double teams is just that's a huge part of his value, and that's weird for us as fans and for us as media members and people that are watching to look at and say, man, he's really doing his job by not getting to the quarterback and getting taking up two guys. But that is it. Personally, I haven't really seen anything from Vernon Butler that's blown my skirt up, that said, oh my God, I've got to have him on my team. But I think as a former first round pick, and somebody that doesn't have to come in, and they don't need him to come in and play 60% of the snaps and be K1 Short, because they already have K1 Short. And they signed Dontari Poe to play next to K1 Short because that's his position. And Vernon Butler and KK play the same position. And so when they decided to keep K1, they kind of limited Vernon's value. And I think he's fine as a backup defensive tackle, but was he worth a first-round pick? I don't think so, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't produced some sort of value.
Mm-hmm.
If only they would keep stats on absorbing two blockers, well, maybe people would realize the value.
Exactly. I was saying when you start getting into the trenches, it's really hard to, without film, to really evaluate these guys. I mean, Panthers go out, trade for a tackle. What are you going to look at? There's no pancake blocks. There, maybe sacks let up, but you're not going to see the majority of a game. So it's tough to statistically see some of these guys. So we'll roll with Vernon Butler. Josh, where you want to go from the D line?
I mean, do we have anything about linebackers? Was anybody surprised? I guess the thing is like, anybody surprised by who they kept at linebacker? No, they needed an extra one with TD being out, so it's like a 4-week tryout for Andre Smith, basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say depth is probably the most important there.
Happy to see Jermaine Carter make the team.
So, do you think after the suspension's up, who's the odd man out then? Because I would think it'd make more sense to keep an Andre Smith or a Jermaine Carter over a Ben Jacobs. Or even, I know David Mayo's been around and he knows the defense, but he's more than likely not getting a second contract here, is he? Is it, AJ Klein 2.0? Well, why not keep somebody around, one of those younger guys?
Mayo's a huge contributor to special teams.
Sure, and I think Andre Smith and Jermaine Carter could be as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I think at the end of the 4 weeks, they're going to have another decision to make, and it's going to be, it's going to be an issue, whether it's going to be Jared Norris or Andre Smith or Ben Jacobs. One of those guys is going to get sent home. It's just like with cuts right now. The good players get cut. It happens, and I think the Panthers have been nailing fifth-round linebackers for the past 8 years. So I think Jermaine Carter has looked as advertised, and I thought it was really interesting. when he is in there against second or third teamers, he looked much, much better. He looked like if you put, obviously it's a huge comparison, but if you put like Thomas Davis or Luke Kuechly or Shaq Thompson out there against second or third teamers, that's how I pictured them looking, just flying all over the field, outplaying everyone. And I thought that's what Jermaine Carter was doing. And I think the team may have actually gotten a steal with somebody like that in the 5th round. So I'm excited for what he's going to do over the course of the next few years.
While we're on the linebackers, I do like seeing the Panthers moving some money around with Luke Kuechly as well. Instead of, like I said, instead of just saying, damn, we have no cap space, finding creative ways to turn those into bonuses, free up a little bit of money. Any thoughts?
They did that so they can trade for Khalil Mack, right? That's what I heard. I heard rumors he's on the block again.
One of my favorite jokes was local. I wouldn't call her a friend, but acquaintance. Katie Nolan here made the joke about Khalil Mack and Matt Khalil. And they're saying, "You want to trade for Khalil Mack?" And he said, "Yeah, Matt Khalil." And it was pretty funny. I don't know. I'm probably telling it terribly, but anyway.
You are telling it terribly.
Yeah, you should check it out. It was like a year ago.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. So yeah, let's move off from the linebackers. We'll see where that money really goes. But I do like anytime you can free up money, you can't hate that.
Sure, and I think a lot of people. I saw somebody on Twitter saying like, "Oh well, you converted a signing bonus, it hurts you down the road." And it's like, did we think that Kuechly wasn't going to earn that money, or that he wasn't going to, play out this contract? I mean, as long as he stays healthy, then you pay him later, and it's fine. Like I don't have a problem giving more guaranteed money to Luke Kuechly.
It's the old Jonathan Stewart deal. Just keep shuffling the money back.
Yeah, that worked out great, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
For the Giants. But let's see. Let's go to the cornerbacks, man. I think this is one of the biggest areas that can cause some good discussion here. Obviously, kind of a surprise keeping just 4 cornerbacks on the roster. You start throwing, if you threw a healthy Ross Cockrell in there, not a bad-looking cornerback room, really.
Or even a Rashad Breeland.
From what we're used to, of course, on the roster right now. James Bradbury, Dante Jackson, of course, wowing us in the preseason. Pretty excited about him. Corn Elder, who I really think Corn Elder is going to be a good player in this league. We'll see. Finally gets a spot, and I think he's going to see a lot of field as far as what the room looks like. And then, of course, Captain Munnerlyn. So, Josh, probably some additions coming here as well. Huh? What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is where, when we talked about the defensive ends, if one of those 2 guys is not going to stick, I think they're going to lose one of those guys in favor of a cornerback, because you just can't go. You just can't go into the 4 healthy cornerbacks on the roster. Like, that's just not an option, because what is going to happen if on the first snap of the game, James Bradbury twists his ankle or Dante Jackson, breaks a rib? So,
I'll tell you what's going to happen. Colin Jones will be playing cornerback, and then we're all going to die.
Colin Jones. I think that, I just think that you can't do that, like, physical roster construction standpoint. So I think you're going to see a corner come off waivers. And if you are asking me if I have a preferred corner that got cut yesterday, I do not, because I don't know anything about the guys that got cut yesterday. I can only focus on one team. A lot of people were asking me about, like, what do you think about this tackle that got cut by Houston? And I was like, I'm 6'6". That's what I know about him.
You mean you don't cover every single team in the NFL all day? Come on, Josh.
Well, I mean, that's what my wife thinks I do, but no, I do not have that kind of knowledge.
Oh, let's cornerbacks. I think again, I think we're at least excited about the 4, but yeah, it's definitely not enough. So we'll see what happens there.
By Doss?
Say Doss.
Yeah. Anybody else surprised by Lorenzo Doss not making the roster? Because he played very, very well during preseason, and it seemed like he was a lock. But I was kind of surprised to see that he did not make it. Although this lineup of cornerbacks and safeties, defensive backs, is impressive over what we've had in the last several years.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a little more surprised by Gunter, and just as far as him kind of being familiar with the team. I don't know. I figured once they let him go, that someone would have to come, take that spot, because otherwise, I think he would have just made the team if they wanted to roll it out like past years. But
he looked really bad in that fourth.
He did, but
game.
I'm saying as far as depth, like you said, Ron Rivera kind of sticking with someone who's at least familiar with the team versus just finding someone. I don't know.
Hey, Teddy Williams is out there, so
Yeah, I didn't say you should start.
Ask Teddy.
Yeah.
So, well, let's go to the guys behind them. Kind of one of the in the beginning of the of camp, we talked about this one being one of the bigger concerns of this team, and I'm not sure it really is anymore come week one, and that's the safeties. Of course, Rashawn Golden, Mike Adams, Colin Jones, and Denoris Searcy making that squad. They did cut southward yesterday. How you guys feeling about the safeties? So we'll start with, I guess, you, Josh. I've been starting with you every time.
Let's start with Keith.
Let's start with Keith. Keith, what do you think about the safeties this year? I know there's a lot of talk about shoulda, woulda, coulda, bring in Eric Reed and people like that, but you feel comfortable with those guys behind our cornerbacks?
As comfortable as I can. I'm pretty excited about Rashawn Golden and the potential that he brings. Everyone, of course, thinks Colin Jones is you either love him or hate him. He's a serviceable guy back there. Mike Adams, I know that he's up there in age. He's 37 years old, but he's a great veteran presence. And I really don't know what to say about Searcy. I have nothing bad to say, but I'm pretty comfortable with this set. I'm not sure if this is 100% set, as you guys have been saying. We may see a different name back there come tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that the people, like when people say that they had a problem with the safety group, it was more because of who they saw on the waiver wire. It was like one of those things where we play in such a society of like fantasy football and Madden. First thing you do when you start up a Madden franchise is you go out and you sign Colin Kaepernick as a backup quarterback. You sign Eric Reed as a safety because they're rated higher than Denoris Searcy is. And I think that is why when people were like, oh, we need help at safety, it was mostly because they saw who was available on the waiver wire and they wanted to go out and get somebody. And I think that the safety group that they have right now is serviceable. To be perfectly honest, I don't think that their secondary is very good. Their front seven, I think, is probably the best in football, but the secondary for the Carolina Panthers is a question mark, and it is going to take some proof from them over the first few weeks. And against Dallas, it doesn't matter because their number one wide receiver is Allen Hurns and Beasley.
Stack that box, right?
Yeah, exactly. But when you go up against Atlanta, I think that's going to be a huge test for them and a real roadmap as to where their season is going to go. If Matt Ryan comes out and throws for 480 yards, I think the Panthers are going to be in trouble, obviously. But I think that is my biggest worry.
Yeah.
Heading into offensive line than I am about the secondary.
Yeah,
I think that is going to be. I mean, we look at it because we're so ingrained in it. We see it every day. Dante Jackson looked great in camp, but they're starting a rookie second rounder at corner. Like that's tough.
Looks good though. We'll see.
He does. Preseason doesn't matter though.
No, but like Josh, our defensive line looks great, but the secondary is questionable. But that's where the whole team coming in together playing is important, because if we can get the pressure on the quarterback up there, then we can perhaps relax a little bit on the safeties. But we don't want to relax on them. We want them to be there covering their guys.
It's a true Dave Gettleman football team. You start up front and slowly digress as you get back in the defense, right? So I think everyone wants kind of that hard hitting safety that we've really never had here. I mean, maybe you could say Mike Mitchell, but more of that like Earl Thomas kind of player. We've never really had that, at least for a long time. So.
Yeah, but those guys are hard to find. How many of those are in the league? 5, maybe?
Yeah.
It's almost like getting all-pro stud left tackles hard. They just aren't they everywhere? Everybody gets one, right?
Yeah, everyone. That's why all the teams win the Super Bowl every year.
Yep.
Exactly.
Because of that safety.
That basically rounds it out for the team. I mean, we can talk, of course, about some special teams, kick return, punt return. We've touched on it a little bit when we were talking about their positions, but kick return is something that I don't really put any stock into kick returning because they don't return like 85% of them. So as long as you don't fumble the ball and you can do whatever. It is what it is, Anything you get there is kind of a bonus, I think. Punt return, of course, is a big one. We touched upon that. But let's get into some questions.
Can we make?
Well, go ahead, Josh. What?
Oh yeah. No. Go ahead. I was gonna say we should make a prediction for who we think is gonna surprise on this year, and only because I think Michael Pilardi is gonna make the Pro Bowl this year. Boom. That's
bold prediction.
That's bold. That is a bold move.
Yeah.
And you didn't
That's
have
right.
to trade what did they trade? A third-round pick for
Fourth rounder.
whatever.
Fourth rounder.
So, anyway, let's get to some questions, and hopefully some of you guys on Facebook can give some answers. We may have kind of answered it in a roundabout way, but we'll go around the room. I'll start with you, Keith. Most surprising player cut out of all of the cuts. What do you think?
I just want to say Bug Howard because I love saying his name.
Go Heels, go America.
But no, they're the cuts are not always easy. It's like I said, Lorenzo Doss was a surprise for me because I thought that he did play well and he had quite a bit of experience. And then also there was Mose Frazier, and because he looked really, really good in the Steelers game in preseason, but hopefully they can bring him back on the practice squad. So those are a few of my surprise cuts.
And Mose Frazier led the NFL in touchdowns in the preseason, or at least receivers. So, I mean, we obviously knew that was coming, though, Chris. So
cut Torrey Smith and get Mose Frazier? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what he just said.
That's what
I heard.
Wait a minute. I have to clarify myself. I was sticking up for Torrey Smith. I'm on the keep Torrey Smith camp, and I'm not worried about him. I'm just addressing the elephant in the Panthers Twitter room.
I didn't know it was an elephant.
That's not what I heard.
Chris, you called the Kevon Seymour cut on Thursday. That was your in or out that we went around the room with. But
I called it a month ago, dude.
True, but you actually said it into a microphone on Thursday. So
I said it into a microphone after the Bills game.
Shut up, whatever. Anyway, most surprising player cut.
Check the tape, dog.
For you, I know it hurt to see Elijah Hood get hurt. Wasn't cut, but not going to play. Anyone else you were surprised about? Obviously not Seymour, but that you thought would actually be on this team?
No, there wasn't anything there that surprised me. I think the closest thing you could say is maybe the Deshaun Hall, but I mean, F.A. Obata put up, when he got in the game and performed. So that doesn't surprise me at all. So no, I don't think there were any surprises here.
I'll jump on the Barner. I think that Barner was a surprising cut. Just as far as how they brought him in and what they, wanted him to do, and punt returner for the Eagles, saw him a lot in preseason. I don't really think he did anything wrong. I don't know. I guess there's not enough spots on this team. I didn't think he'd be cut, really, honestly. But Josh, who is your most surprising?
I think I'm going to say somebody that nobody expected to make the team, but for me, I thought that Zach Moore was going to be the last defensive end that they were going to keep instead of Abada or Cox. I thought that Moore played better than them in the preseason, and he can play inside and outside and left side and right side. So I thought that he was a guy that his versatility and diversity made it somebody that could make the team. Is on the practice squad last year, got called up for the Saints game. I think that it's a shame because I think he played his ass off. Excuse me, sorry Facebook, for this team in the preseason. And if he doesn't get signed, I think he's going to be back for a practice squad. But I thought that he was the guy that they could have kept and could have maybe not contributed all the time, but would have been a nice depth piece on the offensive or on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm. All right, not to speak too negatively, but let's stick here with you, Josh. One more question: what about a player that maybe should have been cut that made the team? I guess who's a surprising add to the roster that you weren't really expecting to make that roster?
Surprising guy that I didn't expect to make the roster. I didn't expect Amir to make the roster, but that doesn't mean it was because he played poorly. It was because I just thought there wasn't room for him. And you know what? How about Amini Silatolu? who did not play particularly well before he got hurt, and wouldn't have surprised me if they had IR'd him for the year and just let him sit on IR. But I don't think that. I think that we, as media people and as Twitter experts, look at Amini Silatolu and think that he isn't ready for prime time, isn't ready to play, and isn't ready to start. And the fact that he got hurt, he had surgery on his meniscus, and it's like he had surgery on his meniscus and made the roster, and Jeremiah Searles had a pulled hamstring and got put on IR. So that was surprising to me.
Keith, I kind of worded this harshly, but we'll call it surprising that they made the roster. How's that? Anyone surprised you that they did make the roster that maybe thought it might have been a practice squad kind of guy?
I'm going to go cheap here and piggyback on what Josh was saying, is that Amini Silatolu, absolutely, because I've never personally been high on the guy. He's always just been an average player, and I hate to see that he is hurt, but again, he makes a roster spot, and Searles makes IR. It's just one of those unfair things in the world.
Yeah. Chris, what do you got?
Besides Torrey Smith, and Julius
had
Peppers.
More catches in the preseason.
Yeah, then I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, he's just talking about crab cakes on Twitter all day.
Ridiculous. I know, bringing up social issues.
It's just
like a jerk and donating stuff to charity.
No time for
off
that.
The team.
Catch some balls.
A guy like that.
Yeah, catch some balls. So besides Torrey Smith, yeah, I mean, it's too easy to cherry pick Amini, so I'm definitely not going to do that. But yeah, I guess F.A. Obata, Josh, I think you and I had this conversation that he's basically a lock for the practice squad because they get that designated spot for him being international, and they could call him up whenever they needed him. So I guess that one's kind of surprising because, Zach Moore did have a pretty good preseason, and he's just a big dude. And he moves quick for a big dude. And we've got another big dude that's 214 years old that's going to retire at any minute now. So we could always use those bodies. But not a knock on him at all. I just thought that it was too easy to stash him on practice squad. So
yeah, I thought F.A. Obata, they were so worried that he was not going to clear waivers that's why they kept him. I mean, I think that's obvious. That's why they keep everybody. That's why they didn't cut Cam Newton, because they're afraid that he would get picked up.
Ooh, that's a hot take, man. I don't know that anybody would have claimed him because he's like the 39th ranked quarterback in the league or something. Nobody would touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah,
and those
hats. Really good point.
Nothing.
All those hats.
And finally, I'll throw my answer. I don't really think he should have been cut, but I was surprised that Andre Smith did make the roster. We talked about the depth there. It is needed again. Maybe it's just a 4-week kind of tryout or 3, whatever you want to call it, but. I don't know. We'll see. I'll be surprised if he is still on this roster when TD comes back. To answer your question from earlier, on paper right now, I do look at him as the kind of odd man out of that group. So,
sure.
Getting towards the end here, I did just want to throw up some. We close out our shows with what we call bulletin board material because there's enough stupid Panther takes to go around the world. We talked about Pro Football Talk calling out the Panthers specifically for not signing Colin Kaepernick, but we'll go with something different. I did just want to pull up this tweet from Fox Sports, or NFL on Fox rather. There's a lot of words that would probably describe the last season for the Panthers. I don't think it's fair to throw fluke in there. Fox Sports saying, was last season a fluke or are the Panthers the real deal? Given an over-under of 8.5 wins. Not to really start picking the season, Josh, I'll go to you here. How do you feel about them calling last season, bringing practice squad players, no Greg Olsen, no Ryan Khalil for most of the season? How do you call that a fluke, right?
Isn't this what has been happening to Carolina for their entire franchise history? Like, I remember when the team in 2015, they were the worst 10-0 team ever. That was like a headline on SportsCenter.
Rodney Harrison.
The worst 10-0 team in history. They were 10-0 and still not getting any sort of respect. I think that is the way that the national media views Carolina. I think it's the way the national media views Cam. The guy was MVP 2 seasons ago, and people are saying that perhaps he doesn't deserve to. Like, it's ridiculous. Everybody forgets how good Cam Newton can be. Everybody forgets how good this team can be, and I think that 8.5 wins is too low of a number. But that being said, they still haven't gone 500 over 500 2 years in a row, so that's got to happen at some point, right?
Yeah.
Is this the year?
I hope so.
No, it's an even year.
Yeah, not to throw out, that we're going to be, 15-1 or whatever, but I do think that Panther win total should be right around 10 or 11. But 8.5, calling it a fluke. We'll throw it up on the bulletin board right next to Sports Illustrated last week, which threw out a Panthers 7-9. So not even giving them that 8.5, giving them an
yeah, why not?
So.
Do you have like a cool graphic where it like wha-bam, like something flies up on a bulletin board?
Well,
that seems like something you would have.
I mean, it didn't wha-bam, but yeah, it is doing that right now. We have the bulletin board.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. You should
I have
check
to
out
look
Facebook.
at your dumb face all the time. I can't look at at what's happening on the live
True.
stream.
Well, you can watch it after. Yeah, we have a nice cork board up there. We're gonna build it nice. So anyway, guys, we one of these days we'll actually keep it on somewhat of a time schedule. We have hit the hour mark. Thanks to you guys on Facebook. Got a bunch of you guys in there on the comments. Always love seeing that. Always love you guys joining us. I'm going to go around the room here, give everyone a chance to kind of plug their pod. Again, we are on the Riot Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. That does include our podcast here, Keep PounDENN, with me, Chris, and Bobby. One-day contract. Josh is over there. Also runs with Nikki Wolf and Colin. Is it Hoggard?
It is.
It is. I should probably let you do this, huh? And let's go around the room here. Josh, go ahead and tell everyone what you do here on the Riot Network.
Sure. I actually have 2 podcasts that are on the Riot Network. It Is What It Is, which is has weekly episodes, and now that we're actually into the season, a lot more players and coaches coming in. So plan on that happening on a weekly basis. That should drop on Wednesdays, I think, and then Thursdays are a one-day contract, which is hosted by Nikki Wolf, and myself and Colin Hoggard are joined every week by a special guest from the Carolina Panthers media community. This week, Bill Voth is going to be on the show. Panthers Bill, get excited. He's going to be very dour and super sarcastic, and probably hate the entire time that he's there. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's it. Yeah. Subscribe us, rate us, love us. And also, I would just like to say, while I've got you guys here, personally love the Keep PounDENN show and Roaring Riot podcast. It's just a real treat for me to be able to work next to you guys and to be in the same Skype chat room.
Love it.
As you.
Even overcoming computer issues and all today to join us, Josh Klein. Thanks.
Yeah, just so you guys can see on the other side of what's going on. There's a. This is yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's exactly what we're doing. We'll go back to the Riot Network graphic. Josh able to make a audible here on the go and join us via phone. But hey Keith,
I'm back, baby.
Keith, tell everyone what you guys do over there at the Roaring Riot podcast. Great show you guys do.
Well, thank you. What we try and do is try and focus on the fans and the experience with the Roaring Riot itself. And we look at the different chapters and what's going on. And right now, since we're getting into the season, we're going to speak with the guys from the Atlanta Riot, since that's going to be the first road game that we're going to be doing coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're going to have Andrew on from that. We really kind of do sort of a 1,000-foot view of what's going on with the game. We don't really get into the numbers themselves, but we give our takes on what went on in the previous game. We hand out our stupid awards, the Game Ball and Tile of Shame awards for the best performance and worst performance of the game. And just chat and have a good time. At the very end, my co-hosts and I, Ashlyn and Jamie, we'll discuss what we call a final thought, which is pretty much the Jerry Springer kind of final thought, anything that you might have. Typically, it's turned into Star Wars or Game of Thrones or whatever, but it's just kind of what's on our mind, and we'll give a quick take on that and just have a good time. It's a pleasure doing it. We really enjoy what we do. We'll occasionally have a guest on. When you guys have joined us before, Den, Josh, and it's always a pleasure doing it. We had a great time doing a live show in Spartanburg. Man, that was amazing. Josh, you were there on it, and as we were wrapping it up, the entire our special teams core were the specialists were all walking out.
Yeah.
That cracked me up. Like, we just missed an opportunity for a great interview here, but I'm sure they wanted to sit down and talk to us really bad, didn't they?
and they wanted to drink wine.
And Keith also has the best radio voice that we all strive for
thank you, Dan.
here on the network. So
yes, agreed.
Finally, with us, I'll put me and Chris up here. Me, Chris, and Bobby, we're on the PounDENN podcast. I'm here out of Boston, and these guys join me remotely. So we, what do? We do everything. We play stupid games. We talk about how Anquan Bolden should have been a Panther.
Talk about that.
I don't know. We have some guests on. We kind of touch it all, and we're bringing it on live now too. So we want to hear what you guys have to say. Kind of go off your comments and address the hotter takes, if you will, in the Riot Network world. So again, it is fun, awesome being here on the Family 4 podcast, all powered by Ortho Carolina. They make it all happen, and we'll be doing some stuff on the road too as well, Chris. So and we'll join up and we'll do a bunch of these. Maybe we'll do one in person someday, guys. How's that?
I thought Keith was going for some sunglasses too. I was so excited.
It was on.
We're all gonna.
I like it. All right, guys, we're about out of time. We are out of time. We're not just about out of time. We're gonna let you guys go back to your Labor Day weekends. Thanks for Josh is really waving over there. We're gonna go back to the 4-way. We'll let you guys enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you guys next week. Week 1, Dallas Cowboys, bring it.
Hands emoji.
Panthers.
Shaka bra.